Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am so lucky to be joined by the beautiful Anastasia Elfman. Anastasia, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing so much better now. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. Our friend Gory Bits made this happen, and I am over the moon excited to talk to you. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You were raised in Laguna Beach, California, the daughter of former Marines. And what I love about this is the juxtaposition of your life um, between Marine camps and then also doing like classical cello and ballet. So, what was it like for you, going through Marine camps and also doing these, which is hard, obviously, very hard work, and then doing these amazing things like cello and ballet? What was it like to kind of balance those things at your young age?
I don't know if there was much balance. It was kind of like I didn't really have a choice. I was constantly always scheduled, almost, like not very much free time. And when there was free time, it was kind of like playing pretend, putting on my own little plays, doing my own like costumes and stuff for the family. So it's just like I grew up constantly performing, even on my off hours, let's say.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I feel like, to me, ballet was probably the most physical. Even though I did do the military stuff as a kid, I'm SEER certified in FEMA, and I've done like rappelling off of cliffs, all kinds of stuff, like fired weapons, all like gone around to different military bases through California, all weird stuff. But I would say the hardest, the most, difficult was the ballet and performing through broken toes and having to smile through it.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like I said, all those things have prepared you for the things that you do today. Because even today, you still work as a stage and screen actress, director, dancer, choreographer, burlesque artist. Like all the feathers in your cap have got to weigh your neck down a little bit. So you're constantly working and you're constantly pumping out new things. Um, and now you do live in Hollywood Hills with your husband Richard Elfman. And right now, you guys are collaborating on a music dance project for an upcoming horror film. And I don't know if that falls under struck work. Is that anything that you're allowed to talk about at this moment, or is that something we should?
Well, that I can talk about it. It's our new horror, wild, zany horror film called Bloody Bridget, and we do have a SAG waiver, and we're being very encouraged by SAG to go out there promote. We just started our film festival tour with it, so we've been going all over. We've gone to Canada, just all over the place with it. So yeah, we're promoting that right now. With
Well,
Danny
and
Elfman did the score with our friend Ego Plum, who does a lot of cartoons like SpongeBob and Cuphead. So it's a great musically driven, wacky, classic, like original Richard Elfman wacky horror comedy.
right. That's what I say. Richard Elfman, Danny Elfman. These names sound really familiar too. I'm sure you guys have heard of them too. But and it's amazing to watch and hear about you and all the things that you're doing and these amazing things. And the way that you guys can stay up to date, especially on the new film coming out, is by following Anastasia on social media. I have all the links down in the description. So make sure you're following her to stay up to date on all these amazing things that she has coming out for us because the buck doesn't stop here. There's going to be plenty more things. And on top of all these other things we've talked about, as if that wasn't enough, you guys are also known for your underground food and wine and performance saloon, the barbecue. I'm going to totally butcher this. The barbecue Bacchanal? Is
Yes,
that?
Bacchanals, yes.
Yeah, that was close.
You did
Um,
great.
I was so worried about that this whole time. I've been like, I'm going to totally butcher this and insult her like crazy. like,
Oh.
So, like I said, on top of everything else, your writing, your directing, your choreography, your acting, and you also do food and wine in a performance saloon. Like, what is it like for you to be a part of that as well?
Well, we always stay busy. We're also parents, so we've got a 15-year-old who's going to school to be an animator. So she's growing up in the
Nice.
right family. So we're just constantly busy. I mean, these dinner parties are big events for like underground the horror community, let's say. So, well, Richard, he's a grill master, so he's known for doing these insane grilling barbecues, and so we'll invite friends over. Sometimes like 100 plus people, will come over. They'll have a barbecue, and maybe there's a little performance by somebody, a little surprise. But I would say for the most part, I've been collaborating with my creative partner, Morgan Sorn of Sorn, which is a band. And we have a show called Vengeful Ways. And it's a very dark, it's different from my usual comedy burlesque with balloons and stuff. This is very dark and edgy and tormented and demon-esque, almost like a form kind of a buto. I don't know if you know that dance, but it's very intense. And Morgan, he has a 5 octave range, and he's so incredible. He'll record live and harmonize and start layering these soundscapes, and it's
That's
just like
amazing.
it's so wild. It's so wild.
See, I have 1 octave and I have yet to find someone that appreciates it. So for him to be able to do stuff like that, that's amazing. And I love to hear all these stories about the amazing things that you get to do because, like I said, one of these things is phenomenal. And the fact that you have, the drive and the determination to do, I have a 15-year-old as well, big football
Oh,
player. So I have a 15-year-old, I have an 11-year-old, I have a 3-year-old. So to be able to do all the things that you're doing while also wanting to make sure that you tell your kids you love them every single day and be a part of their lives, that's so special. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm so excited to be able to share a little bit of this with you because I think it's amazing. And we often talk about, the acting or the things like that, but to know all the things that you're able to do, and it's not easy to do one of these things. To be able to do one of these things and do them well is very hard. And the fact that you and your family are able to do all of them and do them so well is really a testament to the hard work that you guys put into it. And I believe a lot of that probably has to do with some of that growing up on those military bases and all the hard work and determination it takes to be a part of that. So I'm glad that you were
definitely.
able to take that and put it into what you do now. It's super special and super important. And I know I said it a minute ago, guys, but all those links are down in the description. Become a part of that family as well. Make sure you're following along to stay up to date on everything they have coming up in the future for us. So in order for you to be a huge part of horror, which you guys are, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now, Anastasia, I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Anastasia, your first horror movie was?
Well, it was so hard to narrow it down because I grew up as, you know, a kind of quiet, uh, monster kid, surrounded by horror all the time, watching horror movies, probably way before I was supposed to. But so that was really difficult, for me to pick one. I had a huge list of like, okay, how do I figure this out? But we'll go to 1925's Phantom of the Opera, Lon Chaney Sr.'s.
Lon Chaney Sr., baby. And I also said how I have Anastasia's links in the description. If you haven't seen the silent film version of the Phantom of the Opera, which is still so amazing, it is free on YouTube. So I also have that link down in the description as well. I did a watch of it before we did this. I've always been a big fan. I've always considered the Phantom one of the bastard Universal monsters. I've always considered him to be a part of that clique, and to watch Lon Chaney Sr. Really work his stuff on this movie is fantastic. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
Uh, I I mean I assume I was very young. I don't have a super memory of exactly, but I have a little sister, so I'm guessing she was probably around. So maybe like 6 or 7. I'm we're gonna take some creative liberties.
Right. I'm not going to hold you
I
to
couldn't
it.
find my diary, so
Well, and even at a young age, the way that they did a lot of the color schemes and stuff throughout this movie is very impressive. Like the way that they're constantly changing the color grading and stuff throughout the movie is impressive. And there's a lot of really creepy scenes throughout the movie, especially I'm assuming for a very young lady to be seeing. Do you remember which scene it was, Anastasia, that affected you the most?
well, I was so taken away with the film in general, and that probably sparked my obsession with Lon Chaney Sr. It's a funny little fact. We share the same birthday. We're both April Fool's Day
Hey,
babies. And this year I actually dragged my family because he's buried kind of close by. So I forced my family to go on our birthday, myself and Lon Senior's birthday, to go visit him and pay our respects. And because he's in a private area, we did it from afar, but it was very
sure.
moving, probably the closest to a religious experience that I've ever gotten close to. But so that was incredible. But so that probably sparked my whole obsession with him. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
Which scene?
I'm thinking about
No,
Lon Chaney Sr. now.
now he was an overwhelming presence, so I don't blame you. The scene from the film that affected you the most.
I remember now. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
would say probably the unmasking. I mean, the whole film is just littered with so many visuals, and obviously because it was a silent film, so I mean there was definite story happening and character arcs happening, but it wasn't as we're used to with, let's say, talkies, where it's kind of
Right.
like given to us. But I think that was one of the most scary and because that's the first time that you actually see the makeup. And growing up doing more research on Lon, he went to great lengths to hide that makeup from everybody. There were no photographs beforehand, or there was very minimal photographs on set, and he would wear a mask to cover his phantom makeup so that reporters wouldn't get anything when he was coming onto set and stuff. So it was incredible. And the reaction that the actress who plays Christine, I guess that was the first time she had ever seen the makeup. So that was like a real reaction to her. And that must have just frightened the audience, because in a way, we're a little overstimulated or jaded, because we have all of these elements, but he was literally creating, to me, he's the father of horror and
Yeah.
and FX makeup. I mean, there were no unions back then. There was nobody doing makeup. He was literally making it up and would
Mhm.
spend months um, creating he had a wax um, cast made of his face, and he would do experiments and see how he would just create the characters. Sorry, you got me talking about Lon Senior.
No, I'm
I'm
totally. Please
obsessed.
don't stop. Like I
I,
love to listen to
I
it,
don't know
and
I don't know everything, but I do know very particular a lot about Lon Senior.
well, and the thing is, like in that scene, like you said, when you're doing a silent film in comparison to talkies, it's easy in a film now to look at somebody that's scary and give you the scream, and they do that with nothing. The facial expressions is all you get, and it's a mix of fear between the both of them in this scene because she sneaks up on him and takes the mask off, and so
What? Are we allowed to curse in this? What? Are we allowed
yes,
to curse? Yes or
yes,
no? What a little bitch.
I
Like,
know,
like this is going around making sure that you're like the belle of the ball and playing chess with everybody, making sure that you're like the star of everything, and then you're gonna do him dirty like that and like excuse me, like
right?
move on over. I'll.
And like the total fear on both their faces, like him, the fear of because this truly is to me like a Beauty and the Beast love story. Like it truly is like that type of story. And for him now, it's you've seen me, and for her, it's I've seen you. And the mix of different type of fears they have going against each other, even in a silent film, your heart's aching for both of them in this moment. So that's
I
something I
don't
feel
know.
like
I don't think I'm aching too much for her. Like, what a bitch. I'm aching for the fandom, Eric.
right.
Like, poor him. He
Hmm.
takes a chance and then she doesn't like that. Like, could you imagine? Oh,
No, I couldn't.
wild, wild. She's like, oh, oopsies. Put that
Yeah,
back on.
let me put that back on you now. So this is a movie, The Phantom, that's had numerous different remakes. And obviously in Hollywood right now, the remake treatment is something that's always going to happen. Would you like to see them make an attempt at a Phantom of the Opera remake today, or do you kind of want to sleep and dog lie on that one?
I'm generally not a huge fan of a remake to make a remake. I'm a fan of like, what we got with The Thing, like that was a remake. John Carpenter's. I like
Yeah.
things that like, maybe spin off of it, maybe. But in this day and age, it's kind of like they're just doing remakes or because they're safe. Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's a safe choice, and I'd rather see more. I would rather give platforms to more original artists
Hmm.
to create,
Right.
newer stories because we've seen this, and but maybe I mean maybe if they wanted to do it more justice in the way of like the actual the film and not the musical version, like that
Yeah.
might be interesting. Like a great actor, but I don't know. It's hard because also it's like it's one of my passions is to share my plethora of information about Lon Senior. So it's kind of like if that gets more information to him because I wouldn't say he's forgotten, but he's definitely he's the reason why we have horror. We know horror
Yeah.
as we know it. Let's say.
Right. And even his son, and which has got to be a dream for, when Lon
Oh,
went to the grave, your goal is for your son to cast a bigger shadow than you. And, Lon Chaney Jr. definitely lived up to his name. So I think that that's something that would also, keep Lon at peace. So,
yeah, which was so incredible because, when you're thinking of like just anybody, let alone a son trying to work underneath Lon Chaney Sr.'s shadow is
right.
immense because he wasn't just like an incredible actor. I mean, that would have been enough. He went out and he created these intense characters and really like, you know, he brought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
And
really,
created all of this stuff and literally wrote the book on effects makeup.
exactly. And, these are movies that I've always been a huge fan of, whether like I said, I've always considered the Phantom kind of a backdoor universal monster, but it's one of the ones that I've always lumped in there because I was a little bit, I was born in the 80s. So by that time, people weren't talking about the Universals anymore. We didn't get the love and respect for the Universals in the community that I'm in. That was old. That's all it was. It wasn't scary. It's just old. And to me, it's like those are the beautiful movies that created what we have now. Without the Phantom, without Frankenstein's monster, without Dracula, we don't have a lot of what we have today. Like you said, they are the godfathers of horror. And I'm so appreciative to be able to have such a deep dive talk with you about Lon Chaney and about the Phantom in general, because it's an amazing thing to hear your passion for what he did and what he's able to continue to do through his work today by what people are doing today, inspired by him. So, we talked, Anastasia, about your first horror movie and what that movie means to you. But here for a second, I want to throw a little bit of a curveball your way. My little
Uh-oh.
buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Anastasia? What is
Oh
your favorite
no.
horror movie of all time?
Ah, that's it. Oh, I hate this question because it's so hard. How can you pick
I
one?
know.
I mean, based off of what? Like a horror comedy? You know what I mean? Like, how do we narrow this down? This isn't really fair.
Let's say this:
Um,
you're going on a 3 hour plane ride, and you get to take one horror movie with you to watch. What would you take?
well, I mean, gosh, all of I did effects makeup professionally for over a decade, so I love down and dirty a practical effects film. So like I guess I would say John Carpenter's The Thing is really like I could watch that over and over again. I also love Death Becomes Her, which is great. I love
Yes.
like I know I'm cheating on this, but it's like I love gateway horror as well. I love Beetlejuice. I love Gremlins, I love Hocus Pocus. I love all kinds of horror. So
My
I don't know if I have one though.
my wife is the biggest Hocus Pocus fan. Like she's got the three witches' hair tattooed on her wrist. Like
Oh my
she's a
gosh.
huge, yeah, huge Hocus Pocus fan. So I get that. We went to Salem to watch Hocus Pocus 2 when it premiered out there. It was a really cool experience. So I can't argue, and I love gateway horror too. Like I said, we have kids. The way to get our kids
Yeah.
into it was with Beetlejuice, Gremlins, Hocus Pocus. Death Becomes Her is still one of the greatest horror comedies ever. Like everybody in that movie completely killed their roles. So
It's a masterpiece and a perfect film to me. If you think about like the writing, the score, the cinematography, the editing, the effects, the VFX, all of that. And they literally, were creating new VFX to be able to do stuff, and the puppets that they use, all of it.
It is.
It's
It's a
amazing.
total masterpiece. I agree with you. And like even things, that you didn't think you would see back then, the backwards head, the shotgun blast, like things like that look so good.
No, and every line is quotable. Every
Oh yeah.
single line is so quotable. It's a delicious film to watch. And then also it's like the everybody, all the cast, they're so wonderful with everything. You've got what Bruce Willis playing so against type and really embodying,
Way
his
different than what you're
character. He
used
was
to
he
with
was like an
him.
action hero, you known for doing those. And then he's like this doofus guy, and when you watch him walking, he's like hunched over, and these are such strong, hot choices as an actor that he made. And then, Meryl, of course, oh, she
Yeah,
could do no wrong, and Goldie Hawn, an
Goldie Hawn.
incredible comedian, and also she did great with drama. So
Right.
I
And
love it all.
it's a movie I could talk about for hours and hours, but
Right? Yeah. Don't get me started. Sorry.
no, you're fine. I've had an amazing time talking to you about your first horror movie and your favorite horror movie. But before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to the Phantom of the Opera, and what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, how amazing Lon Chaney is, nothing like that. What we're doing is strictly ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, zero skulls being not effective, five being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Anastasia, what would your ranking of the Phantom of the Opera be?
For me personally, I would say 5 plus. I mean, this is kind of my gateway into go. I mean, I would say like a million if I could. I am the actress, the creator. I am, and I became because of Lon Chaney. So seeing his work and the commitment that he put into each and every character, this was the first one that got me going on that path. And I haven't looked back, and kind of I would say some people lead their life asking what would Jesus do. I've led mine asking what would Lon Chaney do. both professionally and personally.
WWLCD, baby. We all know it. Um, so I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but we're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, please, like I said, make sure you're following Anastasia on all her social media links. Make sure that you're checking out everything she has coming up for us in the future. I promise you, you will not regret it. Anastasia, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Um, Everybody else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. All our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.